From 2017 to 2021, there were almost 1,300 criminal sexual conduct cases, although that number is skewed because sometimes a defendant is charged with multiple counts in the same arrest. But Police Chief Steve Ignacio says it's also true that many crimes go unreported.
Having them have that courage to come forward and say, I won't be a victim anymore. I won't let this happen to me anymore. I'm going to stand up for myself and come forward and say, enough is enough. I need you to know that this is what's happening to me.
The chief knows this all too well as a former member of the now-defunct Rape Investigation Unit.
Sometimes they come forward years later after the incident has occurred. Evidence is lost. There's no crime scene to process anymore. Victims are a lot older now and they're just coming forward. So those are some of the dynamics of a criminal sexual conduct investigation.
Meanwhile, Attorney General Steve Camacho says only a very small percentage of cases are reported immediately when law enforcement can respond more effectively. He says also complicating prosecution is the fact that victims are often very young.
We had a case last week where it was a victim who was 4-year-old. So having to call a 4-year-old to identify a defendant and to identify what that person did to them. Those are the evidentiary challenges that we encounter in prosecuting cases as to why you would negotiate a plea versus going to trial, because the risk that a 4-year-old is not going to be able to identify exactly who did that to them and what they did is real.
Chief Prosecutor Basil O'Malley says adding to the difficulty is the fact that in some instances the parent, for various reasons, sides with the partner instead of the child.
I had 2 victims in that case. One victim is now living with grandma because mom doesn't believe her. And then the other victim still lives with mom because, she's willing to overlook that mom doesn't really believe either one of them. But they were both telling the truth, got a conviction.
A number of recommendations came out of the roundtable discussion, such as funding an interview recording room where victims' statements can be taken once instead of them having to repeat it for different law enforcement authorities. Also, court-ordered mandatory counseling and treatment for sex offenders while incarcerated. For KUAM News, I'm Nestor Lecanto.